Good evening. I call to order this February 1st meeting of the Winston-Salem City Council and ask the City Secretary to call the roll, please.
Councilmember Light.
Here.
Councilmember Clark.
Here.
Councilmember Bessie.
Here.
Councilmember Montgomery.
Here.
Councilmember Burke. Here. Councilmember Adams.
Here.
Councilmember McIntosh.
Here.
Councilmember Taylor.
Present.
Thank you. Would you please join the City Council and me for a moment of silence? Thank you. And would you join the City Council in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. I'd like to recognize our Sergeant at Arms tonight is Lieutenant R.K. Rob Peterson. Glad to have you with us, Lieutenant. Thank you. All right, tonight's agenda of the council is comprised of the following items. We have 3 rezoning petitions, a site plan amendment, an item regarding the issuance of 2/3 general obligation bonds, an item designating a historic landmark, an item related to the eligibility of properties for the National Register of Historic Places, 2 sidewalk contract items, and 5 certificates of public convenience and necessity. The rezoning items, the bond order items, and the historic landmark item are listed for public hearings. When these public hearings are called, persons in the council chamber will be given an opportunity to speak. If there is opposition to the rezoning petitions, the proponents and opponents will each be given 15 minutes for presentation and 3 minutes for rebuttal. If no one wishes to speak, I'll close the public hearing and the City Council will consider the item. We're televising this meeting live tonight on TV 13, and it will be replayed tomorrow at 9 a.m. and again Wednesday at 9 p.m. And of course, copies of our agenda and our videos of our meetings are always available to the public by just going to our website and click on the Watch Meetings Online option. May we have item number 1, please?
Item 1, public hearing on zoning petition of the City of Winston-Salem for property owned by multiple property owners from LO, PB, and PBS to RSQ. Property is a portion of the Holly Avenue neighborhood generally located east of Broad Street, south of Holly Avenue, and west of Spruce Street. Located in the Northwest Ward. Planning Board recommends approval of the petition.
Since this is a City of Winston-Salem generated petition, I might ask Mr. Norby just to make a comment about the reasoning behind this.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. You see on the map before you on the screen the area of Holly Avenue. It is the residential core of the neighborhood that's proposed for rezoning to RSQ from 2 or 3 different zoning districts, the primary one being LO. Aerial photo shows it's on the edge of the downtown area and is here's a few shots. First Street looking west toward Broad Street, 2nd Street looking west toward Broad Street. This is Poplar Street looking south, Shady Boulevard looking north, and Spring Street looking south. These are some representative residential uses that would be allowed under the proposed RSQ. And these are a few, there's only a few properties within this area that would be made legal non-conforming. They could continue to operate as long as they're not vacated or abandoned for more than a year. And you see on the left an apartment building that would be higher density than RSQ, and then the 2 on the right are offices that were converted from homes. The Legacy 2030 Growth Management Plan, the Growth Management Plan shows Holly Avenue is actually a portion of Urban Neighborhoods Growth Management Area 2. You can see it's kind of tucked into, adjacent to, but not in Growth Management Area 1, which is the downtown area. And this is the adopted Downtown Plan 2013. And as you can see, that area is shaded a golden color. That is for general residential. And here is existing land use. This will show you the land uses in the area as of last fall. And the majority of them are single-family residential. In yellow, the lighter shade, kind of gold, light tan, is duplex or quadruplex. and then the darker brown is multifamily, and the pink would be office. I believe there are 3 office properties that are shown in this area. Holly Avenue is a National Register Historic District that was designated because of the residential-oriented architecture within it. This area was historically built as a residential area. Majority of the properties within the area are currently residential structures. There are 8 non-conforming properties that will be created, 3 office structures and 5 multifamily. Rezoning to RSQ will prevent incompatible business uses from being established in this predominantly residential area, and the request conforms to 2 of your adopted plans, Legacy 2030, the downtown plan, and there have been 2 other studies done in the last decade and the decade before that that also recommend this. This went on January 14th to the Planning Board for public hearing. The comments in favor included the core of the neighborhood has retained its residential character and use. There were only 4 properties converted to offices in the early 80s. 1 has since converted back. The residential zoning will help protect people's investment in the homes in the area. 2 property owners on the west side of Spring Street opposed the rezoning of their properties that back up to commercial properties that front on Broad Street. And so after discussion, the Planning Board recommended approval of the rezoning with the exception of the properties on the west side of Spring Street, where they recommended that it remain in its LO zoning. And be glad to answer any questions.
Okay. Let's hold our questions for Paul and we'll do the public hearing, and we'll come back to that. So this is a public hearing. Is there anyone in the council chamber who would like to be heard on this proposed rezoning? Seeing no one, I'll declare the public hearing closed and recognize Councilmember McIntosh.
Yeah, I've got one question, a clarification for Mr. Norby. So I would like to request also that that west side of Spring Street be dealt with the way the Planning Board recommended. That's what we'll be voting on, right?
You would need what is before you in the agenda is as the Community Development Housing General Government Committee proposed.
Okay.
So if you want to exclude that, then you would need to incorporate in your motion taking out the properties on the west side of Spring Street.
Mechanically, how do I do that?
I think it's just part of your motion incorporating that in there.
That's what you need to do.
Okay. If I could just make a comment, or
Please,
should I do the?
We'll go ahead and get the motion on the floor, and then we'll come back to you if that's all right.
Okay. I move for 1, adoption of the statement of consistency as set forth on page 25 of the agenda book, and 2, approval of W3281.
Second.
Make clear that you're agreeing to exclude those
With
properties.
the exclusion of the properties on the west side of Spring Street between Brookstown and 2nd Street.
All right. Councilman Adams, you second that. All right. Go ahead, Councilman McIntosh.
Yeah, I just want to take a little victory lap here. This is something that the residents of the Holly Avenue neighborhood have really been pushing for since my moving into and buying property in the neighborhood, which was the early 80s. So the tide is with us now, and I think that a lot of skeptics will be surprised that the highest and best use in the Holly Avenue neighborhood right now is residential. For a long time, it was felt that office was the best use for here, but the market has demonstrated that people really want to live here, and people are willing to pay high prices. And it's not just high-priced property. We have a wide variety of housing from Section 8 all the way up to $400,000. So it's a real diverse group of people in the neighborhood, and we're just all really proud. And I want to thank the folks that we have here from the neighborhood tonight for all their support and the hard work on this effort. Thank you.
Very good. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, no. That's unanimous. Thank you, Mr. McIntosh. Item number 2.
Item 2, public hearing on zoning petition of Cleveland Avenue Christian Church from IP to LO, property located on the south side of 10th Street between Cleveland Avenue and Mount Zion Place, located in the East Ward. Planning Board recommends approval of the petition.
Is there anyone in the council chamber who's opposed to this rezoning? Seeing no one, I'll declare the public hearing closed and recognize Councilmember Montgomery.
Report.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, you may recall this property from last year. It was proposed for rezoning. And at that time, the LO zoning district allowed shelters for the homeless. And as you may recall, you did a text amendment amending a number of uses allowed in the different zoning districts. And among the changes was taking the use shelter for the homeless out of the list of uses that's allowed for LO. So this is an LO general use zoning. You can hard to see in the light here, but the property is immediately to the right, on the right edge there. It's that building there. Here's a close-up of the building from Mount Zion Place, and looking across part of the property on the left there. The east-northeast area plan calls for mixed use in that area, and the site is adjacent to general office. The LO district, we believe, is a reasonable zoning district for the subject property, and the LO district allows townhouses, which is consistent with the recommendations of the Cleveland Avenue Initiative Master Plan that you recall the council endorsed. And as I mentioned, the changes to LO made last year deletes shelter for the homeless. So this went January 14th to the Planning Board for public hearing. There was no opposition. The Planning Board recommends approval.
Questions from Mr. Norby? Councilman Montgomery, if you're ready.
Here's a motion and then comment. I move for one, adoption of the statement of consistency as set forth on page 53 of the agenda book, and two, approval of W-3285.
Second. Please go ahead.
Do want to take the opportunity to say to community, as we look at this property and the rezoning, as it was stated by Mr. Norby, this is the same property on last year in which there was a lot of community dialogue in reference to the proposed use at that time. And as such, that petition at the time was withdrawn for consideration. And one of the things that community continued to say was in terms of amenities being added to the community that would benefit the broader community that serves there. And with this rezoning, the plan for this is actually to bring a dentist office to this community. And so we do see and are happy to see this investment continue to happen in the neighborhood. But on the aside of that, I do challenge our community as a whole that there still exists the need for the use that was being looked for at that time of some type of place for women and children in our community, and do challenge us to continue to think about as a community how we look to meet that need.
Good, thank you. Councilmember Burke?
Yes, Mayor, I was going to ask Mr. Norby to show it again so we can see those houses up in there. And I was going to say today this looks very different. And we are providing housing in that area, and we do have one particular area, and I'm sure the councilman could probably add to it, where the people who are living there, they must work. And they have been approved and understand that the area to improve, they must be a part of it. And I think it's a very good area. It's moving forward, and many things that we can get for people with the income who can live there successfully. I believe that's something that we strive for, Mayor and members of the council.
Yes, thank you. All in favor of the motion, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed, no. That's unanimous. Thank you. Item 3.
Item 3, public hearing on zoning petition of Forsyth Economic Ventures Incorporated from PBS to PB, property located on the southeast corner of Liberty Street and Bethlehem Lane, located in the Northeast Ward. Planning Board recommends approval of the petition.
Is there anyone in the council chamber who is opposed to this rezoning? Seeing no one, I'll declare the public hearing closed and recognize Councilmember Burke.
Yes, Mayor, please let Mr. Norby give just a brief.
Mr. Norby?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. You see the property here shown in yellow right at the corner of Bethlehem Lane and Liberty Street, and the proposal is to take it from the existing PBS to general use PB. And the reason that is needed is the existing PBS has a site plan attached to it that calls for both some buildings and parking to be built for a mixed-use development. And so if the idea is not to have any buildings there, then the site plan needed to be changed, and the proposal is to PB general. Here's an aerial photo showing the area, mostly residential, to the east of Liberty Street. And you can see the gathering place at Fairview Park just to the north of this site in question. Here's some pictures on the ground, the subject property from Liberty Street, looking across Liberty at it. This is looking south on Liberty Street. The property is, you can't really see it from the camera view. It'll be immediately to the left of where the camera is. And this is looking across the property and also in the distance across Liberty Street. And here's a picture of the gathering place at Fairview Park. The site is currently zoned PBS. As I said, there's a site plan attached to that shows a mixed-use development. It's in the Liberty Street growth corridor, and the proposed rezoning may facilitate redevelopment of the site. It is adjacent to GB and PB zone properties, and of course adjacent to the park, which is going to be the recipient of some bond-funded improvements. The Planning Board heard this on January 14th. There was no opposition. The Planning Board recommends approval.
Thank you. Questions from Mr. Norby?
No, I'm just going to make the motion myself
All right.
and then have a
Councilmember Burke.
comment. Mayor, members of the council, I move for adoption of the statement of consistency as set forth on page 77 of the agenda book, and 2, approval of W 3286.
Motion second. Go ahead, Councilmember Burke.
Yes, Mayor, members of the council, we're doing a lot to improve the area up there on Liberty Street. We've invested a lot of the taxpayers' dollars, and we want to make sure when we put the park there, the gathering place, to improve that park. You know, we changed the name of it thanks to the committee who approved that, and we did to the gathering place. And I think what we're doing this evening in working with the Housing Authority and the City of Winston-Salem's Community Development and also our Recreation Department, that we will see some improvements in there, and I'm very pleased with what I see.
Very good. Thank you. We have a motion on the floor. All in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, no. That's unanimous. Thank you, Ms. Burke.
Thank you.
Item number 4.
Item 4, public hearing on site plan amendment of Brookberry Farm LLC for an MUS zoned site, property located on the northwest side of Meadowlark Drive and east side of Beauchamp Road, north of Country Club Road, located in the West Ward. Planning Board recommends approval of petition and approval of the site plan with staff recommendations.
Is there anyone in the council chamber who's opposed to this rezoning? I know the petitioner is here if there are any questions. Seeing no opposition, I'll declare the public hearing closed. Recognize Councilmember Clark.
If we give a 2-minute presentation, Mr. Norby.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. You see the property here, kind of the triangular-shaped property there at the corner of Beecham Road and Meadowlark Lane, and it is a little bit north of the commercial development that has happened in the last couple of years at the corner of Country Club and Meadowlark. You see an aerial photo here. This was actually taken a couple of years ago before all that development happened down toward Country Club, but you can see the kind of the mixed development nature there. This is some ground shots looking into the site from Meadowlark Drive and Beecham Road intersection. This is looking north on Meadowlark. The site is to the left. And then this is looking actually up above the site, looking across the site toward the school there across Meadowlark Road. And here is a house that fronts on Beecham Road immediately across from the property in question. The area plan shows this as low-density residential, and as you know, this large area of Brookberry Farm has been zoned MUS for about 12 or 13 years, originally rezoned by the county commissioners. This is a portion of the original master plan that came with that original rezoning, and the subject property is shown in yellow, but it kind of showed a mixed-use village with some commercial and office and a little bit of residential up to the north, and then more office and commercial on the other side of Meadowlark Drive. But that gives you the context of the area. This is the proposed site plan for a banking institution, 8,500 square foot building, 2 stories, 68 parking spaces, 5 drive-through lanes, and sidewalks along Meadowlark and the 2 internal streets to the north and the east. And there is a type 1 buffer yard along the frontage of Beecham Road to kind of give that some separation there. It's generally consistent with the intent of the original master plan and the conditions for that land bay. It'll provide additional plantings along that western boundary, and includes the right-of-way dedication that's needed for the pending improvements to Meadowlark Drive that's funded by city bond funds, and the realignment of that intersection there with Beecham. On January 14th, it came to the planning board for public hearing. There was no opposition, and the planning board recommended approval. The site plan meets UDO requirements.
Oh, could you point out on the map the realignment of Beaucamp? Because that, yeah.
Yes, is, I don't know if I can get a pointer going, but, oh.
Well, that doesn't help.
Here's the
We're looking
existing
at-
We can't
road.
see that one, Paul.
Can't say, oh, that's, you can't see it on there. I'm sorry. The Beecham Road will come and actually be cul-de-saced before it actually intersects with Meadowlark Drive. And so there will be some internal roads just north of the bank. There will be a new entryway road that goes into Brookberry Farm, and that will be extended up as more development happens and connect in eventually with the existing part of Brookberry Farm. And then you see a little street there that connects that street and Beecham Road, Redtail Lane. And that will be the connector out for the people on that road to come out onto the new road, onto the newly widened Meadowlark Drive when that happens.
And also point out the right in, right out on the.
Oh, yes. On Meadowlark Drive, there will only be you see a driveway entrance there into a parking lot. That will only be right in and right out. There will be medians in there that won't allow people to cut across there, either coming out of there or coming into there. And there will be a full access onto the new internal road into the site.
Thank you.
Okay, Ms. Clark, if you're ready for a motion.
I'll make a motion. There's a second. I would like to make a few comments. I move for 1, adoption of the statement of consistency as set forth on page 111 of the agenda book, and 2, approval of the site plan amendment, and 3, approval of W3287.
Second.
Motion is second. Go ahead, Ms. Clark.
First off, I did have, the developer had a meeting. I think a few people showed up for it. I did have a larger community meeting the other day, not only to talk about this, but to talk about the widening of Meadowlark, the additional work that's going on up at the 2 schools, and the new Jameson Park. I did not receive any comments on this particular one. As you could see from the plans that Paul showed you, originally the site plan that was approved by the county had 2 office buildings. What they've basically done that one is combine them. It does have apartments pretty much on, I guess that's the north and the west sides, and across Meadowlark is more commercial. We are getting ready to widen Meadowlark to 3 lanes, and I think this is a very appropriate use. I do like the fact that they have realigned Beaucamp. That's why I wanted that pointed out. Instead of it coming in at an odd angle, it's going to come in at a right angle, which will make for better traffic. And any traffic coming off Meadowlark will have to be right in, right out. So I think it's a good plan for the neighborhood, and that's why I made the motion.
All right, Councilmember McIntosh.
I just want to confirm that from this site back into the neighborhood, sidewalks are required, right, by the developer. So the apartment complexes that
Yes.
people could walk to this site from there or
Both
bike.
along Meadowlark and the new road into Brookberry Farm, there will be sidewalks.
Great, thank you.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, no. That's unanimous. Thank you. Item 5.
Item 5, consideration of items regarding the issuance of 2/3 general obligation bonds, Series 2016A, tax-exempt general obligation bonds, Series 2016B, taxable general obligation bonds, Series 2016C, and general obligation refunding bonds, Series 2016D. A, public hearing on bond order authorizing the issuance of $310,000 public improvement bonds of the City of Winston-Salem, North Carolina.
Customers, before we do the public hearing, I'll ask our CFO, Lisa Saunders, to maybe just give an overall description of what these actions are tonight.
Good evening, Mayor and members of the City Council.
Good evening.
There's several items that I'm bringing forward tonight that are part of the legal process to issue general obligation bonds. There are 3 financings. The first one are 2/3 general obligation bonds, $3,890,000. This represents 2/3 of our net debt reduction that we issue every other year. These projects were approved in the 15-16 CIP, so you've already approved the projects. This is simply the financing. We'll need to have a public hearing tonight and authorize the bond orders to complete the process for the 2/3 bonds. The second financing that we're asking for is $60 million of general obligation bonds. The $60 million is a part of the 139.2 of the 2014 bond referendum. There is not a public hearing required tonight because we've already had a public hearing and approval of those bonds. The $60 million are comprised of a tax-exempt piece of 53.1 and a taxable piece of $6.9 million. The third financing that we're looking at doing would be simply some refunding or refinancing of bonds that we can get a lower interest cost now. They were from 2006. We're projected to save $1.8 million in debt or interest cost over the life. LGC, if you approve all this tonight, will approve this at their meeting March 1st, and then they will actually sell the bonds competitively on March the 15th. And investors who are interested in buying could get in touch with their broker at that point in time.
Any questions, Ms. Saunders? Councilmember Brook?
I'm glad Ms. Saunders would bring up about the selling of the bonds. As you know, throughout, I've asked us to emphasize these are the safest money right now. You can investment, you can put your money in, and the people need to know that we are rated high. And so, if they wanted to buy some of the bonds, do you have any names of the people that they could go to yet?
No, because they're going to be competitively sold through the LGC, so that means banks will actually bid the low cost to the LGC that March the 15th. So we will know at that point who will have them.
All right, thank you.
Councilmember Clark and then Councilmember Montgomery.
Well, no, I was just going to make the motions when we get to them, but I have no comment
all
at
right.
this point.
Did you have questions, Mr. Saunders? Yes, please. Councilmember Montgomery.
Just for the public understanding, the refinancing, the timeline that was remaining on the loan that we had on that we're going to be refinancing on those bonds, what was the original time frame on those?
It would have been, they're 20-year bonds, and they were issued in 2006, so it would have been 2026.
And then with this refinancing, that extends that period?
It will not extend that period. It
Okay.
simply is just refinanced at a
lower
better
rate.
rate over the remaining term of the bond.
Okay.
So we save $1.8 million on that.
And it'll save
refinance.
$1.8 million.
Okay, good. Thank you, Ms. Saunders.
Okay.
All right, item A is a public hearing on the issuance of 310,000 public improvement bonds. Is there anyone in the council chamber who wishes to be heard on this one? We need a motion to open this one. This is a bond, so we will need a motion to open the public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Motion second to open the public hearing. All in favor of the motion, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed, no. That's unanimous. Now, will anybody want to be heard on it? All right, seeing no one, we'll need a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
Motion second to close the public hearing. All in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, no. That's unanimous. All right, item B.
Item B, public hearing on bond order authorizing the issuance of $2 million street and sidewalk bonds of the city of Winston-Salem, North Carolina.
Is there a motion to open the public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
Motion second to open the public hearing. All in favor of the motion, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed, no. We're in a public hearing. Does anyone like to be heard on this $2 million of street and sidewalk bonds? All right, seeing no one, I'll entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Motion second to close the public hearing. All in favor of the motion, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed, no. The public hearing is closed. Item C.
Item C, public hearing on bond order authorizing the issuance of $1,580,000 parks and recreation bonds of the city of Winston-Salem, North Carolina.
Is there a motion to open the public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
Motion second to open the public hearing on the bond order issuance of $1,580,000 for parks and recreation bond. Is there anyone in the council chamber who wishes to be heard on this? All right, seeing no one, I'll entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Motion and second to close the public hearing. All in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, no. The public hearing is closed. All right, item D.
Item D, consideration of bond orders. Bond order authorizing the issuance of $310,000 public improvement bonds of the city of Winston-Salem, North Carolina. Bond order authorizing the issuance of $2 million street and sidewalk bonds of the city of Winston-Salem, North Carolina. Bond order authorizing the issuance of $1,580,000 parks and recreation bonds of the city of Winston-Salem.
Mr. Mayor, before she reads them all, I was told we need to vote on them individually, so it might be best if she just reads.
I think this is just to read them into the record, I believe, Mr. Carter.
Oh, I'm sorry.
We'll come back to it. Okay, go ahead.
And bond order authorizing the issuance of $14,510,000 refunding bonds of the city of Winston-Salem, North Carolina.
Okay, now E.
Item E, resolution of the City Council of the City of Winston-Salem, North Carolina, making certain statements of fact concerning proposed refunding bond issue.
Is there a motion on the resolution?
So moved.
Second.
Motion second to the resolution, making this statements of fact. Any questions? All in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, no. That's unanimous. Item F.
F, resolution of the City Council of the City of Winston-Salem, North Carolina, providing for the issuance of $3,890,000 two-thirds general obligation bonds, Series 2016A, $53,100,000 tax-exempt general obligation bonds, Series 2016B, $6,900,000 taxable general obligation bonds, Series 2016C, and $14,510,000 general obligation refunding bonds, Series 2016D of the City of Winston-Salem, North Carolina.
Move for approval.
Second.
Motion second. Any discussion? All in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, no. That's unanimous.
Excuse
City
me, Mayor,
Attorney?
are you going to go back for a vote on each bond order?
A, B, and C, and yes.
Okay.
And then we'll go back to item A, which is the 310 public improvement bonds. I'll entertain a motion on that now.
So moved.
Second.
Motion second. Any discussion? All in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, no. That's unanimous. Item B, 2 million street and sidewalk bonds.
So moved.
Second.
Motion second. Any discussion? All in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, no. That's unanimous. And public hearing, the hearing on the issuance of 1,580,000 parks and recreation bonds. Is there a
So
motion?
moved.
Second.
Motion second. Discussion. All in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, no. That's unanimous. Thank you. All right, Mrs. Saunders, you got a lot to work with there.
Did you get them all?
All right. Item number 6.
Item 6, public hearing on ordinance designating certain property as a historic landmark, Butner Hat Shop, located at 521 South Main Street, and the Butner House, 517 South Main Street, recommended by the Finance Committee.
This is a public hearing, but before doing, we'll ask Michelle McCullough, I believe, to make a comment on this proposal, or Mr. Norby.
I think what we have here is just a 10-foot strip that's being added to the existing landmarks that you see immediately to the south of that shaded area. And that would be to allow for some archaeological work that's associated with the outbuildings that were once there. So this is just extending that for 10 feet.
Okay. All right. Any questions, Mr. Norby? All right.
Move approval.
Well, it gets public hearing in. We do have a public hearing in that. Is anyone in the council chamber that would like to be heard on this proposed extension of this historic landmark? All right. Seeing no one, I'll declare the public hearing closed. Now I entertain a motion.
Move approval.
Second.
Motion second. Any discussion? All in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, no. That's unanimous. Thank you. Item 7.
Item 7, resolution regarding the eligibility of the following properties for the National Register of Historic Places. Haynes Hosiery Mill, located at Ivy Avenue Plant, 1245 and 1325 Ivy Avenue, located in the East Ward.
All right. Thank you. April Johnson's going to make a little presentation on this. Ms. Johnson.
Yes, good evening, members of City Council. My name is April Johnson,
Good evening.
Historic Resource Planner with the Planning Department. And I'm here to give a brief presentation on a property being considered for listing on the National Register of Historic Places. The National Register of Historic Places, as you know, is an honorary listing of properties deemed worthy of preservation. And there are no local tax implications with these properties. The property is Haynes Hosiery Mill, Ivy Avenue Plant. It is located at 1245 and 1325 Ivy Avenue. And here's where the property is located, an aerial view right there along Ivy Avenue and Northwest Boulevard. And that's just a location map of the buildings included in the nomination. The Haynes Hosiery Mill was originally the Shamrock Knitting Mill, operated the Ivy Avenue plant from 1925 until 1964, becoming a leading hosiery mill in the state. The Haynes Hosiery Mill Company propelled Winston-Salem to be the largest and wealthiest city in the state by 1920. And by 1929, the Haynes Hosiery Avenue plant was the third largest hosiery mill and the largest producer of women's seamless stockings in North Carolina. From the Haynes Hosiery helped create a national market for women's seamless stocking in the mid-20th century, developing new knitting techniques and technologies that improved the appearance of circular knit hosiery, and launching a national advertising campaign to promote the sheer beauty of their no-seam stocking. The 1939 finishing mill was designed by the well-known international industrial architectural firm of Albert Kahn Incorporated. Staff finds that the Haynes Hosiery Mill Ivy Avenue plant meets the criteria for listing in the National Register.
Any questions, Ms. Johnson? Oh, we haven't finished. I apologize. All right. Any questions, Ms. Johnson? All right, Ms. Johnson, this is simply us supporting their application for the National Historic Register and doesn't involve local taxes or anything like that.
That's correct.
All right. All right, Councilman Brook.
Yes, yes. Will they be making any kind of improvements with the property?
I'm not sure, but I know that one of the property owners is the one that wanted to start the National Register nomination so that they can take advantage of
All right.
state tax credits.
Thank you, Ms. Johnson. And Mayor, may I just say
Yes,
this,
please, go ahead,
please?
Councilman Brook.
I think that's wonderful because, you know, I believe in people visiting this city. I believe we need to have historical buildings and we need to make sure that they are presentable. And I do believe that we need to ask the owners to make this, because when people start visiting, they want to see something more attractive. And they need to make an investment to make it look presentable. Thank you.
Yes, and maybe I missed this. If the owner's requesting, wanting this to happen, this resolution, as to Councilmember Burke's question, I guess my thing is, what's their stake in the game besides they own the building, and they need us to sign off on the resolution in order for it to be historical? And I think you said so they could take advantage of tax credits.
Yeah. Yes, they can be eligible for federal and state historic tax rehabilitation credits.
So again, to Councilmember Burke's concerns, and I know that the council member of the ward, I think, is Councilmember Montgomery. No,
Right.
you split. Okay. Concern is that when they get the credits, are they going to do anything? I mean, how do we, Mr. Norby, as the city? Because we're signing like a check that they can go to the bank, and how do we follow up to ensure that they're going to do something to improve the appearance of the structure?
Well, the credits would be issued based on the level of investment that they make in the rehabilitation, and the rehabilitation would have to be done according to the Secretary of Interior standards. So if they're one would think that if they're asking for National Register designation, their motivation is they do want to make some investments, but they haven't announced that yet. But that would be the logical sequence, is to get National Register listing, and then if they do anything and want to take those tax credits, it has to be done in a certain way.
What businesses are there now? Who's there? Is anybody there, or it's just?
There are multiple businesses. There's a guitar making business in one of them. I think one of them is furniture, something to do with furniture making or repair. There are just multiple businesses. I mean, the complex is large, and there are different types of small industrial type business, warehouse, storage and warehouse is the bulk of it right now.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Councilmember Montgomery, and then Councilmember Burke, and Councilmember McIntosh.
Just commenting, I don't know if we're ready for motion yet, but particularly for, as Councilman Burke said, these properties, the 1245 property sits in the East Ward, and then the other property, which is on the other side of the Northwest, sits in the Northeast Ward. But in particular, the property owners, to those who are at 1245, I have talked with them over the last few years here since they've acquired the property, and I'm not sure if you've paid attention to those properties in particular, but they have done some things recently to those properties in securing structures, adding certain things to even make them look better than they did prior to them acquiring them. So there have been some minor things that have been done, and hopeful for the future. Those on the other side, I can't speak too much for. I hadn't seen personally, but I know those that are on that side of the street, they have done some things recently to those in terms of just the upkeep of those facilities, and there are businesses that are operating currently out of those facilities. But at the end of the day, I think all the comments are true in the fact that this area and what's there can benefit greatly from more investment and greater development that takes place there. And so if this is going to aid in that, I think the community be well in place to be able to see what happens in the future from that and be a part of that process.
Yeah.
Councilmember Burke.
I don't know if the council person would agree with this. Is there an urgency for us to do this right now?
Yes.
What is the urgency?
The urgency is that it is going before the State Historic Preservation Office for review February the 11th, and they typically like to know where the elected officials are on whether or not they will recommend this, to have this information at their meeting. So, and we kind of got the information a little later. We didn't have as much time to.
But a lot is resting on this when we talk about the appearance, and that's been a very blighted for so many years area. And I see some of the improvements that the councilperson says happening, but it needs an awful lot. And I guess what I would like to know from the comment that the councilwoman brought up about what assurance are we really going to have? I understand this. In order to do what they want to do, then they have to show that they are making these improvements.
Have to actually do them before they can get the credits. Or
If they want the tax credits, they have to do it according to the standards that the Secretary of Interior has set for historic preservation.
Short notice. I wish we had gotten a little bit earlier, and I don't want to stand in the way of something that could improve the area. So I'm.
Councilmember McIntosh, I'll come back.
Having been involved in several National Register historic tax credit deals personally, I think that we can rest assured that the SHPO is very concerned with what the final product looks like. So during the process, you have to go to them and explain to them what you're going to be doing. Then you have to do it, and then you come back to them for approval. So from an exterior standpoint, these will be held to the letter of the law, and there's no wiggle room on the developer's part in terms of what the exterior is going to look like. So I think we can rest assured that any work that's done that they're applying for tax credits will be done properly.
Right, and I'll come back to you, Councilmember Adams, and also the cost of issuing tax credits. It has to be a pretty significant project to make it worthwhile.
Correct.
Councilmember Adams.
Yes, just wanted to chime in again. I've lived in this community when I was growing up, and I remember people working there and at Thomasville and the Carolina Narrow Fabric and all of those manufacturing facilities in that area. It's so typical of Winston, I guess, like most southern cities, the manufacturing or the companies were actually right within the neighborhoods, whether it was Hanestown or whatever, it was within the neighborhoods. But because the Beatty building has shown some life and we're putting money there to help improve that and make it even better, and I think there's some life at the other side of the street, the other Thomasville part of the plant. And Samaritan did their thing, and we got RUCA designated, Northwest Boulevard, Patterson, and whatever. I'm looking forward to seeing this area come on board, because this is right between the Northwest Boulevard, University Parkway, and Liberty Street, which are two main, you got 3-4 main streets throughout the urban core. So, I just hope that the council members will communicate the urgency to the owners.
Councilmember Burke.
Yes, Mayor and members of the council, we will be having a meeting. We will request that they meet with us so they will know that we are all really supporting this, but we want them to do the right thing.
That's good. Councilmember Montgomery, if you're ready for a motion.
I move approval.
I'll
Second.
second it.
Discussion. All in favor of the motion, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed, no. That's unanimous. Thank you all. Good discussion on that. Item number 8.
Item 8, resolution awarding a contract for sidewalk construction along Yorkshire Road. This item was continued from the January 19th, 2016 City Council meeting.
Council members, you might recall that we voted to excuse Councilmember Montgomery from voting on this. I might just ask our city attorney just to remind the folks why Councilmember Montgomery is being excused.
Yes, Councilmember Montgomery informed me that Mr. Witherspoon, who owns Premier Design, is a member of the Bethesda Center Board, and because of that, I told him he needed to be excused from voting.
All right, very good. I'm going to recognize Councilmember Clark.
Yes, if I could remind everybody of the history here, then I'm going to ask the city attorney some questions, and I'm going to make some motions. First off, numbers 8 and 9, while they're different motions, they're the same issue, which are sidewalks in the West Ward. the contracts to do them. Number 8 came up first at that meeting, and I thought it was December when we actually came up. There was a motion made to continue it. That motion was in turn no considered, so that pushed it to January. In January, I asked the council to vote in favor of the continuance because we wanted to do some checking on it, and we voted for that. So we're now kind of back where we started from. Also in January, which is number 9, there was I also asked that be continued to this meeting as well. So that's why they've kind of both caught up with each other. And I'm going to ask the city attorney some questions, and then I'll make a few more comments and make a motion. There were some questions that were brought up. I thought they were very legitimate. Sometimes you're lucky, sometimes you're good, but I think it was fortunate that these were continued so that we could do some proper investigation. Ms. Carmen, can you comment on what we investigated and what you have learned so far?
Sure. At your last meeting, I was provided some information regarding some federal tax liens and judgments that were outstanding. So staff and I took the time to research, verify the information that was provided. Essentially, with respect to the federal tax liens, Premier Design has entered into a payment plan with the federal government, and that payment plan is current. They've made a number of payments on that plan. And then as to one of the judgments, they have made several payments, but the judgment has not been satisfied in full.
Thank you. As I said, there are 2 items here. I'm going to tell you what I'd like to do on both, and then I will make a motion on the first one, but I want you to understand what I'm doing on both of them. I'm going to recommend on number 8 that we go with the second bidder, and I'll tell you why in a minute. And on number 9, I'm going to recommend we go with the low bidder, which is Premier. So I guess I'm doing what Solomon did of splitting the baby, but I have reasons for that. The reason I'm going to make the motion we go with the second bidder on number 8 is the responsibility we have is to award the contract to the lowest responsible bidder. I have concerns, not the financial concerns, because I think those have been partially satisfied, but I do have a concern which is the lowest responsible bid. The difference between the initial bid from Premier and the next one is over 30% difference. I have concerns about that. Premier actually asked to withdraw this bid. They later rescinded that, but I think they even recognize there's an issue there. Therefore, I do not think that the lowest bidder is a responsible bidder based on the wide differential and the fact that they at one time asked to withdraw it. So I will make a motion that we award the contract to J&E. Contract is shown on page 181.
Second discussion. Councilmember Taylor.
Yeah, I'd just like to say, Councilmember Clark, I think you've raised some valid points. I do believe that we don't want to hold up the sidewalks in the West Ward. I know how important they are all over the city. But I will say here in item number 8 that we have an opportunity to save roughly $51,000. I know there are other projects that are on the waiting list who could use this funding in order to move forward with projects in their communities. I believe that based on what I've heard from our attorney, based on what I've heard from the owner of the company, that on the local level and on the federal level, things have been put in place to ensure that all obligations are being met. So I believe that based on what I've heard, he is the lowest responsible bidder. I know there are challenges with being a small business, but number one, we are hiring people locally. That money is going back into our community, and we're supporting a small business here in Forsyth County. Number two, we get to save money that can go into projects in the Southeast Ward and to all the other wards. So I believe we have a responsibility to protect the taxpayers' dollars and go with the lowest responsible bid. Now, we could argue what's responsible and what's responsive, but I believe we're saving $51,000, so I'd make a substitute motion to go with the low bidder.
Is there a second? Motion dies for lack of second. We're back to the original motion of approving the contract to J&E Concrete. All in favor of that motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, no. Motion's unanimous with Councilmember Montgomery being excused from voting. Now, item number 9.
Number 9, I'll make a motion that we approve the bid to Premier Design Builders as shown on page 187.
Second.
Motion second. Discussion. All in favor of the motion, please. Oh, excuse me, Councilmember Light.
I just don't see any difference in this and the previous item. Again, with the tax liens and whatever that are against the lowest bidder, I have concerns about, whether the job can be completed. without, dropping us in the middle of it. So I will vote against that.
All right, Councilmember Adams, and I'll come back to Councilmember.
Yes, and thank you, Attorney Carmen, for doing the due diligence, your staff. But my concern is that, have we done this with any other contractors? Have we used this same procedure as to how we resolve this issue, of how we got to this point of saying that, okay, we checked all the boxes and we're satisfied? Is it written anywhere? Again, I ask this, is it written anywhere in our policies, procedures, or ordinances that this is okay to do? That's the question that I have to feel comfortable with.
I'm not aware as to whether or not we've done this before. I think Purchasing Director Jerry Bates made it clear, I think, at the last committee meeting that going forward, we certainly will be doing this, and we'll be checking every, at least the lowest bidder and the second lowest bidder to make sure there are no issues with respect to judgments or liens, or at least that they're being worked on. So as far as I know, this is probably one of the few times that this has come up. So I can't tell you whether or not staff before me has looked at this and tried to resolve it, but I do know going forward, certainly that effort will be made.
Did we check with any other municipalities or the league, or to see how other cities or governances do this? Again, I don't want us, being in corporate, I don't want us to set a precedence of you work with him or her or whoever, and now we got to do this with everybody. And so therefore, do we write it into a policy or procedure, or just we do this based on who comes to the council?
I think going forward, staff and I will work on preparing either a resolution or ordinance amendment so that it will be incorporated into a policy in some form or fashion, so that everyone knows up front this is what the city is going to be doing.
And I think we need to do that, and the staff needs to look at some kind of metric or something, some kind of measurables or something that we got to go to, because it can't be a litmus test of yeah, you, no, you. It's got to be something in place so that we are doing this justly and fairly. You know what I mean? Thank you.
I'll go back to Councilmember Clark.
Yeah, I made an error in my motion. I need to
All right.
add something. I don't remember who made the second, but there's something very important that needs to be added to it, and that is it is contingent upon a mutual agreement between the city and the Premier on the $13,000 roughly that he owes the city. And my thinking there is the contract's for $130, he owes us $13, so when we pay him, maybe we take 10% out of each payment. I think that's important one, it gets the city cleared up. And Mr. Taylor, to answer your question, my concern, that's another 10% off the top, and if we'd taken it out of the other one, this one, there's only a 10% difference between the two, his bid and the next one. On the other one, it was over 30%, and that was my thinking. But that is important. I think the city needs to get cleaned up here, and I would like to make
That's
that
part of your
my
motion would be that would have to address the $13,000
Yeah.
owed to the city, and who seconded that?
I believe I did.
You would entertain that with an amendment there?
Question.
All right.
Madam City Attorney, there is already an agreement in place where the Premier is working to straighten out with the city?
It has not been executed, so Councilmember Clark is correct in adding that to the motion, and that's the understanding of Premier, at least through his attorney, that will be handled. But it hasn't been executed.
Okay, would you accept that as?
Reluctantly.
Okay, you second there.
It's a small business. I think we're hurting them.
All right. So go to Councilmember Brook.
Yes, it's a small business. I introduced the MWBE, and I have stood strong for small business people. This evening is really a difficult time. I worked with Mr. Witherspoon. In fact, I was his elementary counselor. And I think when you look at, and I did at the last finance meeting say that Mr. Bates should have that in his understanding, that we need to check the records of individuals who want to do business with the city to make sure if they have a large responsibility of liens against them, that we ought to be made aware of it And we ought to make sure if we give them a job to do, that they can do that job. It's hard when you say to a person, I'm giving you this job, and then this person gets the money, and then they don't invest it back to the people that they owe it to, then there's a lien, a judgment that's put on the people. I understand what's going on here, and I really feel for business, small business people. But I've said that this city is a business, and we need to run it in this buddy system and whatever you may think that may be involved or who sits here and there. We need to be understanding clearly, can Mr. Witherspoon do the job? That needs to be the question. Because what have you said? What is the amount of this particular job? Would you please give me how much that job is supposed to be?
$136,631.
All right, then you're going to take $13,000 from the job. Then you're going to, the liens that are on him, the judgments with the federal people that are on him, he has to pay that. And can Mr. Witherspoon say whether or not he's going to be capable to do the job? I will support it if I feel that Mr. Witherspoon can do the job.
So it'd be in order if council wants to ask the contractor to state for the record he can do it. Mr. Witherspoon, would you if you would come to the mic and if you would just give your name and address for the record, please, and
let it go into the minutes that he can do the job.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Attorney Stefan Bowens, and I'm here on behalf of Mr. Witherspoon. And I've been the individual that's been behind the scenes working with the city attorney to address some of the concerns that have been raised. And I can say affirmatively on behalf of Mr. Witherspoon that he is capable of doing the job. In fact, he has been working diligently over the past 9 months to address the concerns that you all have raised regarding the issues with the outstanding debt. And so that in and of itself has been it has been his efforts to address those things. So with respect to financial viability, he's certainly capable of doing so and has attempted to address those concerns. With respect to the ability to do the work, I would remind the city that in fact Mr. Witherspoon has done several other projects, of which I reminded the city and the city attorney through communications over the past few weeks, going back and forth, of that he has had several jobs that he has in fact completed for the city already in the past. With respect specifically to sidewalk projects.
Very good. Thank you. And I think council would like to hear Mr. Witherspoon just affirmatively say that as well.
Yes, Mr. Witherspoon.
Yes.
I have stood strong with you. So when I say this evening, it's not against you.
Yes.
But from experiences, we know, you and I.
Yes.
So the question I ask, because people don't like to lose money, can you do the job and make sure you're going to pay your workers and not have any judgments against?
Yes, Councilman Burke, I can and will.
All right. Thank you all very much.
Yes. Thank you.
All right, Councilman Taylor, you had another comment?
I was just going to make my comment.
All right.
I've stood on this council since 2009, and I don't believe we've ever asked anyone if they could do the work, especially if there is concrete evidence that he's done other projects in the city of Winston-Salem. And I think we're getting beyond ourselves here. We've got a viable small business that does great work in the community. He's had other projects. He's done great work on those. I think we're going too far. We're overstepping.
All right, thank you. We do have a motion on the floor that will approve ordering this bid with the understanding that we work out the issue regarding the $13,000 owed to the city. All in favor of that motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, no.
No.
Here, one no. Councilmember Light voting no. The motion passes 7-1. Councilmember Montgomery.
Yes, I'd just like to make a comment. I know it was
6 to
unable.
1.
6-1.
That's right. Excuse me. Councilmember Montgomery was excused from voting on that one.
I know it was not a part of discussion of that item, nor voting on that item, but I must say there's only been 2 times in my time sitting on this council that I have questioned within myself in terms of action. Where that was one, we approved a loan to a business here, and we required that individual to put up a life insurance policy to back the loan, which I have never seen us ever do with anybody else. And then tonight, both of those to me cause pause in what we do, and I just ask that we reflect on how we interact with all businesses.
All right. Item number 10.
Item 10, second reading of ordinances approving requests for certificates of public convenience and necessity. A, ordinance approving requests for certificates of public convenience and necessity of Camel City Caravans for the operation of 2 golf carts in the city of Winston-Salem.
I recognize Councilmember Taylor, Chairman of the Public Safety Committee.
Mayor, members of the council, I make a motion to approve this item.
Second.
Motion second, discussion. All in favor of the motion, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed, no. That's unanimous. B.
B, ordinance approving requests for certificates of public convenience and necessity of saving lives transportation for the operation of 1 limousine.
Councilmember Taylor.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion second, discussion. All in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, no. That's unanimous. C.
C, ordinance approving requests for certificates of public convenience and necessity of first-class airport shuttle and transport services for the operation of 3 limousines in the city of Winston-Salem.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion second, discussion. All in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, no. That's unanimous. D.
D, ordinance approving requests for certificates of public convenience and necessity of Limo Express Airport for the operation of 2 limousines in the city of Winston-Salem.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion second, discussion. All in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, no. That's unanimous. Thank you. E.
E, ordinance approving requests for certificates of public convenience and necessity of Salem Community Transportation System Incorporated for the operation of 5 limousines in the city of Winston-Salem.
Move approval for the final time.
Second.
Motion and second. Any discussion? All in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, no. That's unanimous. Thank you. Councilmembers, we do have a need for a brief closed session. I'd recognize Councilmember McIntosh.
I move the City Council go into closed session pursuant to GS 143-138.11A3 to consult with and provide instructions to the city attorney in the matter of City of Winston-Salem v. K. Neely Investments, LLC, 15 CVS 3149, and to preserve the attorney-client privilege.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and second. All in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, no. We'll go in closed session. Is there a motion to end closed session?
So moved.
Councilmember Adams moves to end closed session. Councilmember Clark seconds. All in favor of the motion to end closed session, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed, no. We're out of closed session. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Taylor, second by Councilmember Adams to adjourn. All in favor of the motion to adjourn, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed, no. We're adjourned.